Good morning, everyone, and thanks for watching my video here. I'm making what is my latest video for a machine I'll be posting onto Craigslist. And for those of you who've seen my videos, you know I restore vintage domestic sewing machines. And I work on a variety of brands and models. Currently on Craigslist, you will see a machine that looks somewhat like this model, but is not the same. That is the 401A Singer. And that is a late 1950s, 1957 or so sewing machine. It was Singer's finest machine, and this was one of the machine models you could pick that year from the series. This is part of what's called the 400 series slant-o-matic machines. What Singer had done is they had taken the slant shank from their 301 models and created models that would do lots of different decorative stitches and zigzag. But when you went into Singer, a number of people still wanted a straight stitch dedicated machine only. And so you could. This is what they call the 404 model. And so it is related to, and it looks very much like, the 403, which used a lot of cams in the top, and then the 401, which you'll see on my other posting, which has most of its stitches built in. So, you know, why would anyone have wanted a straight stitch machine? Many people had only ever used straight stitch, and in the 1950s, zigzag was still kind of the new, latest, greatest feature, but many people had learned to sew with straight stitch only. And many of you today do straight stitching on your sewing machine. Some of you have sergers, or you have overcast machines that take care of raw edges. And so, and of course, many of you have more than one machine. So, for those of you who enjoy sewing with something that creates a gorgeous stitch like the Singers from this period did, it is a rotary hook. It is a drop-in style bobbin, and it is wonderfully easy to use. The other thing to say about this machine before I stop talking and start sewing with it is that it is a direct gear drive machine. Singer was one of, I think they were the only company that actually engineered some of their machines to use no belts. And so the motor, which is inside here, actually is directly connected to the handwheel gear. And anyway, of all the vintage machines, this is all hardened, high quality, high carbon steel inside. The body is aluminum, so it's heavier than a featherweight, of course, but it's still not nearly as heavy as some of the other machines from the period. You can, of course, drop or lower the feed dogs. In this case, you actually raise the needle plate here if you want to do free motion work. And of course, there's a bobbin winder here on the front, one of my favorite bobbin winder types from Singer. You have stitch length control. I've got it on long right now. If I want to go in reverse, I go all the way up, come down. I'm in the sunroom this morning, so I won't be using the light, but there's a nice light switch. And everything is accessible. When you go to oil the machine, the oiling points are right above the top here. So incredibly simple machine to use and to take care of. You're going to see a lot of images on the Craigslist posting of all the restoration work I have done. But once you get the machine, if you decide to purchase this, the only thing you really need to do to take care of any vintage machine that's been restored is to keep the lint cleaned out of the bobbin feed dog area, which is, this is true of all machines. And then just oil it with the beginning of each project. And it's a wonderful sewer. It has that gorgeous rotary Singer hook that I often talk about with many of my videos. So anyway, I'm going to start out sewing long straight stitches here. And I've got sort of I guess you'd say this is a lightweight woven cotton. And many of you will sew with that. And of course, I can back tack. And I'm sewing a little slowly right now. I want to show you the great needle control that you get. Singers are legendary, from the vintage era anyway, with being able to slow the needle down. And I find that feature wonderful. Whether you're new to sewing or you're experienced, it's nice to have. And then I'm going to come over here and make another run, and I'll show you that the machine does have a higher speed. Oops. I got my thread caught here. So as you can see, it can sew quickly if you have the skill or the the gumption to sew that fast, you can. And now I'm going to come over here and I want to shorten my stitch length because I want to show you something I often talk about with singers. A singer with a rotary shuttle can make one of the most amazing short stitches you'll ever see on a machine. Recently sold one to someone who wants to sew knits, or maybe they just want to do some embroidery type stitches. And the quality of the stitch is wonderful. This is some of the engineering that made Singer a very famous name, and in fact they were, at their pinnacle, they were the largest sewing machine manufacturer on the planet. So, let's see what kind of stitches I've got here. Okay, so what I'm going to show you guys, and I'm in sort of it's a cloudy day here this morning, but I want you to see first, underneath here, this is where I was originally. Along the top here, you're going to see the long stitches, and they're so beautifully tight, you can almost, it's even hard to see where the stitches begin and end. I'll try to get a little even closer up without losing, there we go, without losing my focus. And then on this side, you will see the bobbin thread, and you can see here the shorter stitches. Those really wonderful, tiny little short stitches that Singer rotaries are known for. So anyway, I'm going to double this over. We'll turn it on this side so we can see the stitches from this direction. And vintage machines have a lot of power and torque. This machine is pretty flexible. Again, this would have been sold to someone who would have sewn everything from curtains to trousers to other types of things, even blankets. I'm going to go back to my long stitch here. And again, it goes right through. And again, for a vintage machine with a strong motor like this is really nothing. And the point is not to overestimate the power of any machine. They all have their limits, but this will sew the pants off of any new machine that you're going to buy at any of the sewing stores because they don't build machines to this kind of specification anymore. So I want to show you guys what my stitches look like with the, again, this is 4 layers. You'll see the black on the back there. That's 4 layers of a medium weight cotton. I'm going to go a little heavier. This is some drapery fabric. It's linen weave. I've used it on another one of my videos. I'll start out with 2 layers of it. Again, the machine is pretty flexible. You can sew quite a lot of things with it. Many people years ago only owned one sewing machine in their home. And so they really had to have a machine that was flexible, and that's the advantage of a domestic vintage machine versus something like an industrial. I'm sometimes getting people asking me if they need an industrial. Sometimes they do, but an industrial machine has a lot of advantages, but also has many limitations, and you end up having to get lots of different machines in order to accomplish your task, depending on what you're doing. Come back and do some of those short stitches. You guys see these. I think they'll show up pretty well. Again, this is a good bit heavier weight fabric than the first one I did, and it's doing fine. I'll double this over and we'll get 4 layers. I want to go back to long for a moment. I like to start out with the longest stitch because it's a little easier for those of you watching these videos and seeing photographs to actually see. And that's a really cool thing to do. You really want to look at the stitch quality of any sewing machine before you're going to purchase it. And it's a little harder to see stitch quality when you've got the stitches really short. So So here's 4 layers of pretty good weight drapery fabric. And again, stitches still look beautiful. Here's the other side. See if I can get this to focus in a little bit better. There we go. Yeah. Beautiful stitch work. And then lastly, you guys have seen me do this with other videos. I'm going to make a run on a cargo pant here, or the remnants of a cargo pant. And of course it's going to have medium weight khaki cotton, but you're going to have these really dense seams, just like you get on denim, and we're going to have it on both sides. So I want you to see the machine and how she performs when asked to do something a little trickier. A lot of new machines will not do this well, if at all. They don't like changes in fabric density, and this is a pretty significant change. But as with all my vintage machines, this is one of the things I do like to test them for. Of course, you always want to make sure that whatever seam you have is going to go under your foot, because if it gets caught, the machine will be waiting on you to do that. So come back. So again, even at high speed, she is sewing up Storm, does not mind those seams at all. And here are the stitches. Notice that the seams are beautiful and true. They don't miss a beat. They don't change consistency. That's where you want to see it, right over that seam. That's a great sign of a well-engineered machine. If your machine does not do that or can't do it, and there are limits to everything, of course, but if your machine doesn't do that, then you don't have a machine that's going to be engineered to sew all that many different things, unfortunately. And that's what most new machines do these days. They give us the promise of a lot of convenience from their software, but that's about it. So I'm going to, let's come over to the blank side. I'm going to even do 4 now. I want you guys to see the machine, and we'll see it, like I say, we'll see if it likes doing 4. And again, that's going to be 4 of those seams. And you'll notice I want to make sure that my seams go under the foot, obviously. And it made a run, and it did not mind it a bit. I'm going to come back one more time. We'll see it go once more. Got a little thread caught there. Get my thread tails out of the way here. I want you guys to see how the machine performed, and notice again, even with 4 layers, that's 4 of those seams, the machine was still tolerant, and that's just a wonderful thing to be able to get out of any sewing machine. Here it is again on the other, whoops, try to get, there's a better focus. Try to get that again. So again, if you guys have any questions, if you'd like to come and see the machine, you are welcome to come and do some test sewing on it. If you're new to sewing, I will demonstrate it for you. They are magnificent. And I spend quite a few hours, as you'll see in the photos, going through the machine, giving them a full tune-up. I call it a restoration because I go through everything to make sure that they're sewing like new again, and then they'll be good for quite a long time. So anyway, just drop me an email, and I'll be happy to set up a time to show it to you. Thank you now.